Synth Network.
Hello and welcome to the Pro Synth Network with myself, Rob Puricelli, but not. My name is Dominic Hawken, aka Mr. Wiggly. And Rob has left us once again in the pursuit of rare vinyl. It's Record Store Day Mark II today. Apparently there's 2 Record Store Days this year. And as well as being super busy, of course, as Jim Glue in chat says. He's now headed off to queue outside his local record shop with his chums to get the best, to bag the best of the bargains in the morning. So he's left me in charge of the controls. Not much else, but I know how to press the buttons. So it's just the 3 of us, no other guests today. You'll have to make do with our meanderings and warblings. So if I can introduce Ben and Cryss into the fold as usual, and we'll do our best to make up for a lack of Rob. Hello there.
All right.
Good evening and good morning from California.
Wow. I've carry on, sorry.
No, that's right.
You were about to, I was just going to say, I've been talking about California. I've been on the south coast of the UK, which has been California-esque these last few days. I was just saying to the guys before the show, we took a staycation with my wife and daughter into a caravan on the south coast into a place called Pagham, which is between Brighton and Bognor Regis, those fabulous seaside towns. And it was amazing. The sun shone. My daughter, Lunar May, who's 9, had a fabulous time. She said, it's the best holiday ever. So all that planning to go to kind of boat trips across the Med to get to Greek islands and everywhere, we should have just gone to a caravan on the south coast, an hour up the road from here. Really, really good. So Rob, or Regimental Sergeant Zippo, as we like to call him, is now queuing up outside his shop. So we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I'll just say a quick hello to the guys in the chat because it's already busy. Azio heads in first, Corrosive Abuser, Sasquatch, Auto Z, Paul Torbett, Wilderness Music, hello, Himalayan Voices, Synth Addict, and they're all in there. I recognise a few. If I just do a little plug for my own show on Sunday, which is at 7 o'clock on Sunday, it's only on for an hour. There's a lot of people in here already from that. That's more of a light entertainment, stupid show, really, where we do a silly quiz. But hello, Kent Spong. Thank you very much for joining. Hi, Inky. Inky was a guest last week. Hi, EMX Gold, Andrew Brooks, Mark Acker. There's loads and loads of people in there. So thanks very, very much for joining. If you like the show, please do click the like button. And perhaps subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Luckily, or thankfully, the number of subscribers to this channel is shooting up recently, which is great because it didn't have so many subscribers compared to the number of amazing guests that the guys have had on recently with JJ Jazalek and all these guys. It's really worth a follow, please. I best hand over to Cryss briefly just to do any housekeeping and tell us anything that might need to be happening or anything coming up in the future, please.
Well, yeah, I mean, just first of all, if you guys want to find us anywhere else, you're obviously seeing us on the YouTube channel, and appreciate that. Yeah, the likes and subscribes. We're a group on Facebook, and that's how this all started. Ben got us going with, trying to create a group to discuss synthesizers and recording that was free of all the drama that usually goes on. And so you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, let's see, Twitter, I think. And where else? Where else can we be found? And that's all at Pro Synth Network.
Yeah.
And also, I just gave over the email address. I just forgot it. It's prosynthnetwork@gmail.com. So if you guys want to send us any messages. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, the money that comes in for support goes to fund the service that we use to do these live streams. And so we don't take anything from it. It's all to help keep the show going. And there's a link in the description box for PayPal if you want to donate to it. We really appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's all, right? And then we'll hit you a little bit later with the guests that are upcoming.
Yeah.
And if you can't tell, we're very blessed to have Dom on here, and that's because I'll speak for myself, but I think I can kind of give a wink to Ben also. That's because we don't know how to talk.
Yeah.
But there's that gift that Robbie has and Dominic has that it's like, they know how to get it out of the mouth in a good way.
Yeah. I'll leave it to you.
All right. Hey, Dominic, we've lost your audio.
There you go. It just proved how good I am at running these things. My word. I did a huge coughing fit just while you were explaining what was going on. No, I was going to say it's all been kind of shown up by my daughter, who now just fears nothing, comes on YouTube and just does her own thing, makes her own TikToks and YouTubes and stuff, comes on my Sunday show and does her quiz and stuff, and just doesn't care. She's rocking. So give her another 3 or 4 years. I think she'll just be running the whole show, to be honest. It's rapidly coming, just me giving a little bit of an intro and an exit at the end, and she just does the whole thing, really. Anyways.
I mean, and not much time at all. It'll go from your impressive list of credentials to just Lula May's father. That's all you'll need.
Exactly. It's definitely not far off that. Hello Wagyu, by the way. Hello Simon66. Hello Damsky. Welcome to everybody. Man Boone, Atto Z. They're all in. This is great. Thank you very much indeed. Right. We have a first topic, which is about something very dear to all of our hearts, which is Reason. Actually, it's more dear to Robbie's heart than anyone else's, because he's an avid Reason user. But we're kind of used Reason back in the old days. But they have now released Reason 12 and are kind of hitting on their subscription type of stuff. So let's give it a show. This is the guy from Reason here to tell us all about what's been going on.
You know that little microfiber cloth that came with your glasses or your sunglasses, which you may have lost as soon as you bought them? Well, if you still have it, it is time to clean off your glasses, because Reason has gone high resolution. Reason Plus subscribers already have early access to some of Reason 12's new features, like glorious high-resolution graphics for all the devices in the Reason rack. The realism of Reason's virtual studio rack just got a whole lot realer, and some of your favorite devices are taking on a whole and Thor. Or some of the newest additions to Reason, like Friction, Complex One, or Algorithm. They're now seen as they were meant to be. I personally have been geeking out on all the little details, like the wear and tear around the Echo's trigger button, the exhaust fan on the back of Red Drum that's keeping it cool, or the Tolex faux leather on Reason electric bass. But Reason 12's high-resolution experience isn't just about the more than 75 included rack devices. Every single rack extension ever made is now high-resolution too. That's
so I think we get
hundreds
it.
of devices that you might already have in your rack that are looking
high-resolution devices and updates. And then at the very end, I could have let it run, to be honest. At the very end, he says that you can resize the screens and stuff, which is actually quite useful.
Which searches rack device patches, built-in sounds, Reason Plus sound packs, and any other custom locations you've got.
So they've speeded up the search, and I promise you somewhere in there it says you can there you go. You can resize your screens on there as well.
And Reason scales. Whether you want big devices on your screen or maybe smaller devices on your screen, the choice is now up to you. Reason 12's browser is much more responsive. Searching Reason's library.
So I think that's it. I'm not sure there's many other updates going on. How important is the resolution of the plugins that you're using, Cryss?
Yeah, I mean, that can kind of steer me away from plugins if I see things are not looking good. And, with some of these companies, they feel pretty far behind the times. There's some, very new plugin companies, much like Mr. Wiggly plugins, that are creating really beautiful GUIs on there. It's great. But then you see some of these other companies that are still continuing to put out really shabby looking plugins. I think I picked up just a handful of Waves plugins last year. And, I mainly wanted their tape phalanging plugin because I really liked the tape phalanging sounds. But I was pretty shocked. I mean, it looked like it was a 15-year-old plugin. I don't know when it actually came out. And when I had bought it, they had advertised it was high resolution now. And so after looking, I'm like, this is really ugly looking. You can see all the blockiness of the text or the of the GUI. And then one of the problems that people were talking about, like, hey, this doesn't look like it's high res yet. And they're like, no, it is. Just the numbers were high res. Like when you put in a plugin value, that was what was high res. Yeah. The rest of the plugin still looked like it was from 2005.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, Ben, what's your take? I actually don't think there's a sonic difference. I may be doing them a big disservice, but generally this is a GUI update, I think, right?
Not from what I've seen or read. It just seems to be visually. But I can't believe that you couldn't enlarge the sequencer before this. Was that not possible before? Could you not zoom in? Because that seems ridiculous. How often do you need to zoom into something to get the finer details on it? And I don't know.
I'm not sure. In the world of plugins, if you're writing a cross-platform VST or an AU, you're a little bit at the mercy of this sort of cross-platform-ish limitation, and you have to do some real jumping around sometimes to make a resizable GUI, particularly a drag one. That's why most of these plugins offer you percentage switches, because they can almost preset where everything goes. And it's made easier now. You've got platforms like Juice that people used to program in, which is why most of them are now doing it as well, or you see more of it. Originally it was a real brain ache, to be honest, so people just didn't bother. They just put it at standard size, and then it's one size fits all. It's that, and the ability to save and load presets is a little bit non-standard between devices. There's not a most common VST. So sometimes, like in Logic, you'll see there's about 3 different ways to save stuff. You can save it in the plugin, or you can save it from the Logic drop down and all this kind of thing. So size is not, but resolution isn't. You can use whatever resolution that you want, and I think maybe, as you say, they might be suffering from using lower res graphics that have probably been lost in the midst of times and have always been good enough until now.
Yeah, I seem to remember when it first came out, it looked pretty impressive, and I know that looks is only a very small part of all this, but it must be 10 years on at least since it came out. I don't know how long it's been, but 10, 15 years or whatever. And it still looks the same. Yeah, they've gone high res, but it still looks like it was drawn on an Amiga. That's how it looks, as though it's evolved from Rebirth, and it still looks like that.
I think looks was a really big part of the initial one, wasn't it? Wasn't it the moving wires and that kind of stuff? I mean, back when it was unique, that made a huge difference, I think, to the perception of a cool looking plugin.
I love that about Reason, the ability to flip the rack round and then patch things in a wacky way that's not supposed to work, but it does something mad. That was one of the biggest selling points of the entire thing for me, being able to do that. And as rewires started becoming less and less important as the plugins got better, I kind of ditched Reason altogether, because I never liked the sequencer. I thought the sequencing part of it was awful.
Right.
But I didn't actually. I've never gone back to it since it's come. It's got this VST compatibility thing, which it might be worth looking at, and I think there's an offer on at the minute. If you look around, it's something like you can get 3 months of that Reason Plus for $3 or whatever. It's
tempting, because before I knew that this was on, I was looking at it, because you're thinking, okay, so effectively you're signing up. There's no commitment. We can try out a whole bunch of free plugins for $19.99 a month, cancel anytime, 7 days free trial. So even if you forget about Reason as a DAW, if you want 75 new plugins, synths and effects and all that kind of stuff, that sounds pretty cool. And then in the I don't know why I didn't press the button in the end. It was just do I really need 75 new? I've got so many that I don't use already. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to go and check these out. It looks like a cool, funky pack of stuff, and I certainly wouldn't buy it as an expensive block, but as a kind of drop in for 20 quid and see how it goes for a couple of weeks. I think it's a really nice offer, actually. I mean, there's a lot of instruments that are there. There's a lot of plugins. There's a lack of Reason mentions in the chat at the moment. I don't know if anyone is a Reason user in the chat that can kind of give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down as to how important this update is to them. That would be quite useful. But yeah, the most exciting thing I think when I looked at it was it got me thinking, okay, I should actually invest in a subscription to this and see what they've got. Yeah, the whole thing is £400 as a one-off, and I don't think you get everything for that. I think one of the big deals with the subscription is you're getting all of the sound packs, and they're really committed to getting new sound packs weekly, loads and loads and loads of sound packs coming out all the time. So it's a nice package. Sorry,
it's tempting, isn't it? Yeah.
When you're thinking about using this, is that would that be something you would use in addition to Logic or in place of Logic? Because I believe you're mainly a Logic user. Is that right, Dominic?
Yeah. So I use Logic and Ableton, and for some reason at the moment it tends to be more Logic, but my background was completely Logic and Cubase originally, and I would be using it as a plugin within Logic. I don't unless someone sent me something that had been produced in Reason that I was working on. I'd probably find a way to use Reason like that, but I'd be more thinking of them as a big group of plugins that I could use rather than an extra DAW, which, to be honest, is what they've got. I mean, and a whole bunch of sound packs to go with it. And then maybe, who knows, maybe it would get me thinking in terms of like if it's another workflow to inspire a slightly different way of generating songs. I definitely in the past got stuck in a rut of like, I'm starting with the same template, thinking about the same kind of mood of track and going down the same road. And it sounds great, but it's like, there's no difference. So that was one of the reasons I bought a Deluge a few years ago, just to try and make myself do something else. And it kind of worked. It got me to think about simplicity and narrowing down the amount of sounds that I'm using and making things a little bit more direct. So anything that forces you to think a little bit outside of your standard kind of operation mode in the studio is definitely a good thing.
I'm interested in that. Sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm interested in that. Is it the Polyend tracker?
Yeah.
For those very reasons, because I remember using the trackers in the old days. MemoryMode's just got one, and I don't think he's getting on too well with it. But I remember it made you have a completely different creative process, because you were working vertically and you were exchanging samples at different beats, and it just made you work like nothing like you would do sitting at a DAW now. And I think just to get some really original ideas out your head, I think that something like that would be really inspirational.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's a tracker is really what a coder would write a DAW as if they didn't know what a DAW was, because it makes complete sense if you're a coder, particularly if you're you need something to write some music to go with the game that you've just written. It's the way that sounds are stored in computer memory and all that kind of stuff. You go, okay, we'll have this and we'll have this looping, and it's a really, because it's evolved. I've had some amazing stuff in some of the Facebook groups done on trackers, and they work on Game Boys and Bit Boys.
It's an ingenious way of dealing with polyphony, isn't it? Because things you can only have 4 things happening at once. It's really clever.
There's a great artist called Modern Chair, which is also a great name, I think. If you Google Modern Chair, he does a lot of jams based around one box. So he's done some Octatrack stuff and as well, but he's done a bunch of tracker stuff, and they're just mad. They're just very talented guy, on the verge of noise music at some stage, but it's just brilliant. Really clever guy. So it's worth a Google.
I'll have a look.
A lot of people in the chat saying they used to have Reason and they don't use it now, which is telling. I think they're going to get quite a few new users on the basis of this on their subscription, even if it's only to try it out for a month or two, because you get 7-day trial as well. Adamski's using a very old version.
Maybe
Well, that's interesting.
Offer tiers though. You know how you get everything for this £20 a month, but like maybe, you know, like the DAW and a handful of plugins for a tenner. You know.
Yeah.
To bring people into it, you know, because £20 you can have Roland Cloud for £20, and that seems
True.
more useful to me than
True.
Than this
I mean,
stuff.
it's £240 a year, isn't it? So that is a chunk, exactly. But
Yeah.
it is better than buying a £400 thing up front, I guess, as the whole
Yeah.
unit. It's very easy with these subscriptions to get carried away, though, isn't it? I mean, I pay for Roland Cloud. Got the YouTube Pro subscription, so I don't get any adverts. I've got this, that, and the other, and suddenly, you know, there's £200 a
Yeah,
month
it
going
adds
out
up.
on, you know, on stuff
Yeah.
to make your life slightly simpler. Roland Cloud is good value, I think. I know it's had its ups and downs in terms of reliability, particularly with kind of having to put your passwords in and stuff, but it's a good thing to me.
It is. I just hate the preset system on the synths. It's
Oh,
just,
right.
It's
Yeah.
awful. That is just, it's like Windows 95 all over again.
Well, and there's another area, and you know, I guess maybe this comes back to what you were saying, Dominic, about some things being more difficult to go cross-platform, and
Yeah.
the other area besides GUIs, it would definitely have to be preset management, because there's some like say Omnisphere, which I love. It works well.
Yeah.
Or the Arturia collection, like I can search stuff, I can favorite
Yeah.
things, I can save it different ways, you know, either in the plugin or in Logic, of course. But some of these other companies like Roland Cloud would be one of them. Some of the native instrument stuff, like if you have Massive X, like the preset management is awful. Like you can't really do anything with it, and that would be one of the areas where it feels like in 2021 it's not the small guys that are having the problems as you would expect, like, you know, people getting into making plugins. I know that's difficult, but they seem to be conquering those things, whereas it's these big companies that are still having the problems of like getting modernized with this.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it's not helped by Windows and Mac moving the goalposts as to where public and private files can be stored, because they've changed it quite regularly. But the two you've mentioned both basically stuck a stake in the ground and said, we're just going to ignore that. And Omnisphere has the Steam folder, if you like, that has to sit somewhere.
Yeah.
You can choose where to put it. It could be on an external drive, or it could be anywhere you want, and it just works. And I think Arturia do a similar kind of thing, and everyone else like myself. I mean, it took more, to be honest, doing copy protection, where to save the samples, and how to kind of share stuff, copy and paste, took me longer than writing the Incinerator plugin, because you have to think about on Windows and test it all, because on Windows it should be in user program files, blah blah blah, and then on a Mac you've got to go somewhere else, and you've got to sign your bundles of software with the right thing to get them installed, you know. And I can see why they get into trouble, because as soon as you've gone down that road and you've said, right, well, the right place to store our sounds at the moment on a Mac and PC is this, it's really hard to change. You know, and you're trying to come up with a common place to put this stuff, and then someone else comes along and says, well, actually it's moved on Mac 11, they've decided to move them into the audio file or whatever, you know. Not our problem in the slightest, but I have a little bit of a sort of, I feel a bit sorry for some of those guys, because it's really hard to change, but you just got to do it your own way.
I had picked up Valhalla Room a couple of months ago, which was crazy that I didn't have a Valhalla plugin, because I really like all of them. And for some reason, I had just passed on it for whatever. And most of it was to do with I really liked Vintage Verb, and that covered my needs. But I decided, you know, I'm going to buy this one. And so I was going back and reading through some old threads on KVR where Sean Costello talks about making Valhalla Room, and because I wanted to get some information on what he was thinking as far as the algorithms, you know, why these are different from this one or that. And then along the course of that conversation, he's talking a lot about like fixing those kind of things, or how do you set this up, or how do you integrate this stuff into a plugin, whatever it is, you know, these different operating systems. And it was quite fascinating, because there's so much work that goes into it. I mean, I don't envy you guys that make plugins. and it's not, again, it's not as much the fun stuff, is it? I mean,
No,
preset
but it's the bit that takes the time. And I
Yeah.
went through all those as well, because the good thing about developing stuff is generally someone else has gone through a lot of the pain, and those forums are really interesting. And that has a great example of someone who, it's almost, you can find a post from way back saying, I'm thinking about making a reverb plugin. Anyone done this before? All the way through to this enormous company at the end of it, or enormous product range. And they have literally gone through that. And those are the bits that all the supporting crap that causes a problem. And to be honest, that's why a platform like Juice, which is a programming platform specifically to develop plugins and audio applications, helps so much, because it doesn't get rid of all that hassle, but it gets rid of a lot of it. You have a single piece of code that will work 99% across all platforms, and the bits that aren't quite cross-platform, where they need to change, and it does remove a hell of a lot of that overhead, and it's a great thing. And the bits that have been written are obviously highly optimized, because it was originally open source, and it's all kind of, it's all been done by people who've been there before with the same pain, and really they just want to get on and write plugins. They don't want to be worried about whether you got curved windows on a PC compared to a Mac, or what happens when you push this button on a touch screen on an iPhone instead of on a PC and all that stuff. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. But it is always, if you talk to a programmer and you say how long is it going to take, they'll always say it's a tenth of the time that actually takes. But to be fair, the 9/10 that are taking all the time are the boring bits that just have to be done to make the thing work for everybody.
Yeah, but that stuff's so important, though. That really makes the user experience, because usually I can be pretty forgiving about the GUI, but when I'm struggling to get the preset system to work right, that's when I get pissed off about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, OBE, which I presume wasn't written on Juice.
No, it wasn't. I don't think, but they've built their own system for that, and sounds amazing. So good work to them.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. But even that, the mighty OBE, the preset browser, it still isn't great. It could be better, and it's surprising, really, how kind of little importance seems to be given to that, which is a vital area. Yeah. People that have got it right, like Arturia and Spectrasonics, it makes a massive difference in using the synth or the family of synths, because if you need to find something quick, even like your own stuff, that pad sound that I made, sometimes it's difficult in these outdated browsers.
Yeah. I mean, when we, I had a company until about 4 years ago that was working in the gaming and gambling industry, producing apps and software and kind of banner ads and clever stuff for that industry. So, for example, it would put the things on TV in the halftime football saying Rooney to score next 3-1 or whatever. So it would take odds and squirt them on screens. But we'd also do a lot of app work, trying to make it easier for people to gamble online or to place bets or to get scores or stats and that kind of stuff. And when we first started, I think a UI designer wasn't even a job, And then by the end of we were there 10 years. I think we had about 200 staff in the end, and probably 50% of those were front-end designers and GUI designers. And the back-end coders were really that back-end code, surfacing up information for other people to put at the right place on the screen. And they had so many customers that you could run testing against different people. You say, all right, 5% we'll try on that screen and 5% we'll try on that screen, and we'll see which works the best. And you can start to play Google on that kind of stuff and see who what really works and what makes it easier, because the customer is absolutely always right. It's your fault if it's not working. And there aren't enough customers to do that, I guess, in this kind of thing. And also there's probably not enough profit in it to be able to employ a whole team of UI designers. So quite often it's the coding team at the back that's doing their best to make it look nice, because all of the work is going to the sonics, which ultimately is the most important, I guess. But it is vital, because things fail with rubbish UIs. There's a reason on Incinerator why it's so simple, because I can't draw. I learnt a lot looking from other UI designers that I've worked with and gone, wow, that's amazing how you've done that. Yeah. And it's simple is best, you know. I think I'm with Ben when you've got a tape emulation plugin and you see the tape reels going around, it's like, really? You know, I don't know. Waves has got one of those. Yeah. Incidentally, you mentioned Waves, Cryss. They have updated some of their plugins, because I recently renewed the update and some of their front ends immediately changed into something that looked a bit more sort of sparky, and the others haven't changed at all. So I think they're kind of working through them slowly. I was quite surprised.
Well, yeah, that's good.
It's
right.
That's you, isn't
that's
it?
right.
Yeah, I guess I'm not too worried about Waves, but
yeah,
when it does come to manufacturers that I would use more, like, you know, say IK Multimedia or something, then yeah, it's going to be more important. And fortunately, with a lot of the plugins, they do have, you know, a lot of people have shifted towards that very flat modern design, which I really like. And so, you know, Mr. Wiggly, Valhalla
led, I think, as well. I can't claim any ownership of that one. The Waves update was only because of Yoad's video from Sonic State showing how we made his Sonic State tune, and I ended up renewing it off the back of that because he did some crazy stuff. Up until then, I hadn't opened my Waves plugins for months. Absolutely months.
Well, I mean, and it goes to show too, like, you know, the tools are important, but the tool wielder still remains the most important about it. You know, how we use our plugins, and, you know, people getting into music, still the most important thing is, like, you know, don't worry about spending a whole lot of money. Just use the plugins that are in your DAW, and you can make great music with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and misuse the plugins that are in your DAW more than anything. You know, just use them and just break them. Well, that was interesting. Half an hour on Reason that we know nothing about. That was
I haven't finished yet.
That was around the houses kind of chat. Right. Well, the next the next topic at our disposal is an Arturia V update. So who better, if I can find him, then there's a chap called Brian here to tell us all about that. Let's have a look and see what's going on. I think it's this video.
Hi there, I'm Brian, and in this video I'll be showing you the latest enhanced version of Arturia's V Collection 8. Version 8.1 brings a bunch of amazing improvements to compatibility, accessibility, and of course sound, making V Collection that little bit more inspiring to explore. Let's check it out. V Collection 8 is a collection of legendary keyboards and synthesizers, emulated and enhanced in software form using Arturia's exclusive modeling technology. It includes 28 instruments, from vintage analog and digital synthesizers to quirky samplers, acoustic and electric pianos. With the latest update, the whole collection is enhanced with new sounds, features and functions, including an upgraded sound engine for OBX-AV, micro-tuning compatibility, accessibility mode for Analog Lab V, 128 new presets, and much more. Let's take a closer look at what's included in version 8.1. First up on our list is the OBX-AV, Arturia's powerful software recreation of the most coveted polyphonic synthesizers ever made. Its list of new features includes
so there's the OBXE. There are, I'll go through all of it. Not an earth-shatteringly huge list of amazing changes. Micro-tuning in conjunction with Aphex Twin, who seems to be getting on everything but roller skates recently. NKS ready. The OBXA, that's clearly, I would guess, something to kick back at the GeForce amazing machine that's come out. Analog Lab accessibility. And I'm guessing NKS and Analog Lab were pretty well implemented in the first place, right? So,
well, wouldn't I think with the NKS stuff would be more recent thing because of the partnership with Native Instruments.
That makes sense. Yes,
so,
yes. Yeah.
I mean, the updates to the OBXA are pretty cool. I had a quick play on it because I do have the vintage collection, and it sounded good. Microtuning, that's kind of what I'm always puzzled about, because you know, I have some like Ravi Shankar albums, some, you know, like Indian music that I really enjoy. And, you know, definitely a lot of microtonal stuff used in that music. But I hear, it seems like there's always like maybe 4 people that will just hound developers about micro tuning. I don't really see it ever used at all. I just hear like this same kind of 4 people on the forums like going after it's got to have microtonal stuff. I'm kind of curious if anybody in the chat is really into micro tuning stuff and why. I mean, I've seen some microtonal guitars where they'll have a different fret layout on it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's a difference between a different tuning for a guitar, which is just putting the strings at a different tune, and tuning in between the notes, isn't there? So, I mean, I've seen a few modular people do it almost because, you know, because it's something you can do. I've never known anyone so far to come and say, "Oh, I've used micro tuning on this tune." I mean, an interesting rabbit hole to go down, but I'm not gonna. I would buy your product, but it didn't do micro tuning. Isn't really part of my vocabulary.
I really don't hear it like used particularly well outside of Indian and Asian contexts. There's some people doing, you know, kind of more of artistic music, if I can use that widely, but I'm not really hearing a lot of really musical examples of it. I know. I'm not saying
maybe
that's not capable.
Maybe in that style of music in those countries, maybe they've got a mass market following. But Aphex Twin does seem to be geared towards kind of Western music, right? So it doesn't make so much sense. Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Obviously, I've never got into the Arturia this collection, so if I ever bought this, I'd have to pay the full whack, I think, up front. I've got a Matrix Brute, which I like. A lot actually, which is really, really cool. But it's a company making clones and software of classic machines without authorization. Dare I say, who does that remind you of? But that doesn't bother me in the slightest either. I don't know. You've played around with it, I think, Ben, haven't you? You've been using it on the 80s stuff that you've been doing.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. I used to have it years ago, and when it first started out, it wasn't that great, really. Nothing actually sounded like anything like what it was supposed to. But it's getting there now. They've really got like an analog kind of quality about them, and it's so good for working on like things like the 80s replicas, because you can get so close with, just with the plugins. You don't have to start hooking the gear up and that. It's a faster workflow.
And how would you say it compares with the Roland stuff on the cloud? Obviously, it's not all just Roland stuff in the V Collection, but are they comparable?
I think it's close now. I think a while ago it was miles apart, but I think it's close. I mean, I've got a personal tragedy to tell you about the Arturia collection.
Oh, I love a tragedy. Go on.
It was just that I was all up to 7, and Cryss and Robbie upgraded to 8, and I was put off because I couldn't. This is the real sob story here. I couldn't really afford it, and so I was struggling like with just me few synths that I had in that 7 collection. Sorry, it's choking me up this. And I kept hearing Cryss telling me about the Oberheim, and with Robbie telling me about how good the emulator was, and it was just a step too far. I couldn't reach it. It was just out of grasp. And then
does this tale end with you selling yourself on the streets?
No, it's worse than that.
Boy.
It's worse than that. No. And then I spotted that they had an offer where you could pay it in 4 chunks. So I thought, right, I'm going to catch up to them too. And I upgraded and paid my first chunk. And so I can't remember what it was. But I'm there like with all these new additions, which weren't that great really, but I'd upgraded now and I was equal. And then I started using some of them in the tracks that I'd done, you know, so I'd use a bit of emulator there and that'd sound all right. And then I discovered that I really liked the Oberheim and I was using that all over the place. And then my payment bounced.
Oh, no.
And they cut me off.
Oh, no.
So I had to go back to version 7. Oh. I've got all these parts that I've had to do on other synths now because I've lost it. And it's just those improvements that were there were actually really good. So I'm gonna try again. I'm going to try again when they forgot about me because I don't think they'll let me have another go at the 4 payments at the minute. But, yeah.
Oh gosh.
So
well, I think they're having they might be having a sale right now too, so you should check that out because it might be way cheaper to do it while it's on sale than. Even
I think they are.
payments.
Yeah, absolutely,
You know,
absolutely. It's
else,
a chunk, isn't it? But I think it does work out at about 40 quid a unit or something. It's a if you add them all up, it kind of makes sense, but it's a chunky old purchase. Sorry, carry on, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a better, in my opinion, a better value than Roland Cloud is as far as what you get. Instead of just a subscription now, I'm coming to the end of my second year of Roland Cloud, and they're kind of spaced out the years, but I did it when I could get 2 licenses from them that I could, what do they call it? Permanent or lifetime, whatever.
Oh yeah, the lifetime ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got 4 of those now. So I'm keeping the 4 things that I want the most, and then I'm just not going to subscribe until there's something that makes it more valuable. Now the thing is that as Ben was saying, it used to be that they were way out in front with the sound of their synthesizers. And I think, now in 2021, that's not the case. They have really great sounding stuff. But when I think about something like, the Junos, 660, 106,
yep.
I've got a bunch of that stuff. I've got a hardware Juno 106, and then playing through the Roland Cloud stuff, the Arturia stuff, now that they're going through and updating, so like with this last collection, you got some new ones like the emulator, but then they went and redid the Jupiter and they added a Juno, and this stuff sounds really good. And then Softtube's Model 84 surpassed everything, in my opinion. I mean, it's with the Cloud, I was like, well, I don't want to fish the Juno out of the closet and set it up and set up the MIDI and go through all that stuff, so maybe I'll use it. On the System 8, that's another thing because it'll be a little bit different because you've got the more envelopes and things, and so there is a purpose for using something like the Cloud. But that Model 84 by Softtube just got to the point where it's like I don't even really need to fish it out of the closet anymore. I'm just going to go and pull out make some presets in there, and with these other companies really taking their sound in a better. To a better place, they're, I think, surpassing Roland, that people were willing to put up with Roland's like really hinky cloud service stuff that's still really awful because the synthesizer sounded so good. But that's the only thing that they've got right now is that they sound good, but preset management, dealing with the cloud issues and downs, and then like the whole manager thing where it's getting a little bit better. It's gotten a tiny bit better, but I don't think people are going to want to deal with that much longer, given that companies like Arturia and Softtube are doing so well with the modeling.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it has got better. I've had Roland Cloud for well, I don't know how long it's been going now. Most of the time it's been going. It feels like a year and a half or 2 years or something, and in the last couple of months, it stopped asking me to continually put my password in and do this rubbish, which is enough for now, I think, and it has generally worked. And for the stuff that I need, I've been playing around with the 303 for some stuff that I've been doing. I like the Jupiter 8. I'm not really using it. I would benefit from a mid subscription. Do you know what I mean? But unfortunately, all the bits that I need are kind of in the Epic end of the subscription. The Jupiter 8 and all that, and the 909 and that kind of thing. Yeah. I don't really use much of the other stuff at all, but I think it's worth it. It's paying for itself for me at the moment.
See, I wonder how well they would do if they did make a subscription where you could get just the legendary stuff. Like, forget all the sampled stuff, forget the drums,
100%.
forget the Zencore stuff, and just get the legendary stuff. And I think they would pick up more subscribers because that's what most of us want. I mean, there are some that really like the Zenology stuff and that's multi-platform. So maybe they have a Jupiter X or something and that works for them. But, I don't really want to spend that kind of money and then have all these other things that I'm not really using anymore. So I'm kind of feeling like it's time for me to pull out. And again, with Arturia's collection, there's so much stuff in there that I can go to for it. Now, there's still some that are pretty old. Kent in the chat was commenting about the Prophet, and I would tend to agree with him that it's what do you say, pretty rubbish. But I expect that, when Collection 9 comes around, probably that would be among the ones that get updated because the Jupiter was downright awful before just like the Prophet. I mean, it didn't sound anything like a Jupiter, but now it sounds really good. And so I could imagine the same thing for some of those few that are a little bit aged, like the Prophet in there. But until then, we've got Yuhi, so I'm not really worried.
That's true. That's true. I do, and Rusty was just asking if we've also got Pigments. I do have Pigments. I haven't used it for a while.
Yeah, Pigments
I purchased that separately. Yeah. And that was one I think that really came into its own version too, didn't it?
Yes. I 100% agree because I bought it when it came out. I thought, well, this looks really interesting. Again, they did a really great job with the GUI on it. It's beautiful and it's functional. You can see everything. And I played and I was like, wow, this is really sterile sounding. This is not really that great. I kind of regret the $69 or whatever I spent on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Until version 2 came out and they started expanding it. Now they've got the granular and I don't know what they've done to the engine at all, but just the whole entire update stuff, that is a phenomenally powerful synthesizer. And when we think about gas, like, man, I would love to have an Iridium or a Quantum.
Yeah.
That's kind of up there. I mean, my big purchase for this year has been the Kodomo SSFN. I'm very happy with having a really nice digital hardware synth. I would love an Iridium, but when it comes down to it, then I go like, well, I've got Pigments in there, and it's not a one-to-one or anything. But for a lot of the sounds that I would go to something like, go to an Iridium for, I'm just going into Pigments and doing it, and it's working.
Yeah. No, fabulous. There's quite a lot of version 2 stuff that comes out suddenly changes the world. The Akai Force being another one there that suddenly kind of found its own feet and kind of has been released in a way that it probably should have been released in the first time. Couple of points about Waves, throwing shade at Waves. I wasn't throwing shade at Waves. Chris might have thrown a bit of shade at Waves, but if you're interested in Waves, just go and have a look up Sonic State and look at Yoad's How I Made My Sonic State 001 track, the Sonic State album that came out quite recently on Bandcamp. And he doesn't use just Waves, and he is employed by Waves, but it's just amazing what he does, and I'm sure you could do similar things with other plugins. But it changed my outlook on Waves feeling a little bit long in the tooth. It's obviously been around for a long time. They've got some great plugins. I'm not sponsored by them, but I did renew my upgrade with them just based on that video that he did, especially with what he was doing with vocals and stuff. It was quite incredible.
So just like really quickly, like a couple of their plugins that you would recommend.
The ones I use are the Shep's channel. Let me look because I've got. Hold on a second. I have to flip through, so I might even be able to pull them up on screen if we're lucky. Let's have a look. So you changed my life actually with the thought of being able to reorganize all these plugins, which I haven't done yet. But, so just look at this. It's just crazy, this amount of stuff that's here.
So if anybody hasn't seen it, if you're a Logic user, I found out a way to reorder your plugin menu and made a video about it. It's on the Synth Network. It was only, a few weeks ago or so. You can go check it out. It has really made life easier for me in a tremendous way.
So instead of being able to go down here and seeing here's a list of manufacturers and here's a list of their plugins, so for example with Waves there's a massive list, you can sort them out into like, here's some reverb, my favorite reverb plugins, my favorite delays, that kind of stuff, which is obviously killer. On the Waves front, check out what he does, but there is let me just find this one down here, which is it's a complete channel. And the Sheps Omni channel and Vocal Rider as well. So this will take a couple of seconds just to pop up. So what he's been using is the guitar channel, which is this one. Literally guitar effects all over people's vocals. And he wasn't using this one. I use it a lot. It's just an all-in-one, and it has a bunch of presets on it. So if you want to like enhance your kick drum or make the vocal sound a bit better or whatever, they're really good starting points. And this is just a channel strip, so I mean, it literally does everything in one box. And there's another one called Vocal Rider, which is really interesting, that he was using in weird and wonderful ways, which is literally you play the vocal into it and it will then write automation on the vocal level. But here it is, vocal, and it does a live version and a non-real-time version. So as you're speaking, this thing will literally ride your vocal levels and write those automations into the channel, which can be quite a neat way of doing it. So those are just three. This was crazy. If you want to know the pedals he was using, yeah, just grab them. And he was also using the Renaissance channel a lot, which is they've got these you've got these H plugins, start with an H, and you've got these R for the Renaissance plugins as well. And there is a Renaissance channel. Shows you how I should be rearranging my somewhere. Renaissance channel, here we go. He was putting this thing across vocals with the most absurdly extreme settings on. So he would like do that and then just chuck this one up here and have this one up in there and then like, have a listen to the vocal on that, and it distorting like crazily like this. That sounded amazing. Sort of breaking all the rules. And honestly, I think he's probably one of the best would you call him a mix engineer, producer, around at the moment. Honestly, he's up there with the best of them. So, and it's like a free masterclass. So check it out, and I'm guarantee at least some of you will dig your Waves plugins out again for real.
The Sheps channel is pretty popular among rock musicians too. It seems to be one of them that I hear talked about the most as far as Waves goes. I don't have that one, but I've heard it's good.
It's just, I mean, he's such an amazing producer, Sheps, isn't he? And he mixed like 99 Problems and kind of won the loudness war in the end, didn't he? So it's full of those kind of things. But yeah, a great one. So there's an advert for Yoad. or alternatively, you get him to mix your tunes, I guess, but he's probably quite expensive. We have another one, which is a Lunar Lander. So let me just pop back. I'll find the relevant bits and pieces down here. Lunar Lander is a Bucket Brigade delay that has recently now been released for iOS, which sounds quite interesting. Now, I'd not tried Lunar Lander at all when I saw this. I don't know if either of you guys used it.
Yeah. So
love it. Yeah.
Who wants to go with that first?
Chris. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben. I'm trying to pull it up here.
All right, yeah. We got a review copy of it when and the fixed filter bank as well, the two things. We were all unanimously blown away by Lunar Lander. It's just a great effect. I use it literally on everything I do now. It's like it doesn't sound right unless I put this on it. And
wow.
Yeah, it's just that it's brilliant. It's the best effect that I've got. I think the best virtual effect I use it on
Wow.
everything. I really,
So it's got a delay built in, Bucket Brigade delay. So that's kind of what they used on the old Juno Chorus. It's not digital, and it is analog fundamentally. But it basically, the longer the delay, the more everything kind of degrades and disappears into the mush. So it's a lovely warm sounding thing. Plus reverbs and saturation. So yeah, it sounds like it's got a lot, right?
Yeah.
So it's got 3 different plate reverbs, 2 Class A and Class A/B saturation, which is just nice for kind of a subtle thing at the end of it. But yeah, the Bucket Brigade delay on it is really good, and it's got modulation, so it ends up being a lot like an old Electro Harmonix Deluxe Electric Memory Man. And I said it's a really great plugin to use. Sounds wonderful. He keeps adding more and more features to it. And so also, I mean, that was one of the first things I downloaded. I just got my iPad. I ordered this back in May. It finally came in. So, talking before too about workflow. So I don't want to make music on an iPad. I love Logic on my computer, but I have been experimenting with some other things, virtual instruments on an iPad or drum machines or things that you would touch rather than use a mouse on. So that's been kind of fascinating. But one of the first things I went and did is, so Ziad sent out an email from Pulsar Modular that if anybody has a license for the plugin already, they've already purchased the plugin. If you email him, he'll give you a free license for the iOS version of it. So,
fantastic!
Which is, to me, is great. I think that's what it kind of bothers me. Like when, and I understand why it's happened, but when plugin manufacturers have made 2 versions, like an iOS version and then Mac OS or whatever version of a plugin, and they want to charge you separate for the same thing just because it's on a different device. And so, obviously the system, the Mac OS and iOS is coming closer together. It's not, I don't think it's ever going to be the same thing, or at least not for a while, but at least some people like this are going like, well, if you have this, you can have both the Intel Mac OS license or the Windows version license, and you'll have it on iOS. And then, of course, as plugins are moving towards the AU V3, is it? So
yes.
You can just run them on your new M1 Macs, and I look forward to that when it happens. So yeah, it's great. Highly recommended. That's always one of my delays and reverbs category in Logic for my favorite stuff. That's one of them that gets put into that category.
Oh wow, that sounds ace. I need to go and check this out then. So the main version is $149 I think for the main version. The iOS version, I can't see what price it is on iOS at the moment. Obviously, if you've got the main, like you say, you can get one, get a license for that. Someone said the iOS version was free currently, but I can't actually get to see it on my iPhone.
Yeah,
we will check that out for you
because I've already got it purchased. I can't see what the price is.
Yeah, exactly. If I click the download on the App Store, I get a view in the Mac App Store. Let's see, only available. I can't get to it on a computer, unfortunately. But highly recommended.
How would you integrate?
Yeah, I've been checking out
What's that? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, I've missed some of the conversation because I nipped to get a top up on the old Coke there. But how would you integrate that effect on your iOS device into your studio? Is it for when you're making music on the go in GarageBand? Or I don't really understand the need for iOS effects myself at the moment.
Yeah, right. So if you've got instruments. One of the people that I watch would be Doug Woods.
Yeah.
And, what's his... Somebody in the chat, if you can remember what his... It slipped my mind, but Doug Woods' YouTube channel. So he's a guy that goes through and just shows all sorts of iOS music making stuff, apps and things. And so Synth on here was also making some recommendations. And so there are these apps that allow you to, whereas, it used to be back in the day on iPad, you would have one app open at a time. but they've done some upgrading. AUM is the one that I'm thinking of here. Let me see if it pulls up here. And you'll probably have seen this. Oh, see, I don't have anything set up in this yet. But this app here allows you to run multiple plugins and then be able to mix them. And it's a routing kind of thing. I'm sure somebody can explain it much more eloquently than me because, again, I haven't even used it yet.
Yeah.
So if you're using an iOS synthesizer, Sound Test Room, yes, Rustic has it in there. The Sound Test Room is it. He uses this AUM app, and then he'll load up, say, a synthesizer, whatever it is. Like I've got, IVCS3 or Moog Model 15, Mini Moog. Then you can put that in a channel, and then you can have it after, just like you would in Logic. You just have the Lunar Lander after that, or whatever effect that you have. I mean,
it's like the environment in Logic, isn't it?
Almost exactly that. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So the doors on the iPad these days kind of look like a big environment of plugged in things. So you have a sequencer that you could then plug the output into a player like the Moog plugin, and then you could take the output of that through this Lunar Lander. And then, I mean, the whole thing could be just with the USB connection on the newer iPads, could be plugged into your main DAW if you really wanted to use your iPad as an external effects machine. Right. Most people are making tunes on the iPad itself, and kind of just configuring it that way. But it's a neat way of thinking about things. And it's a very modular way of looking at it, actually, and a really nice, because up until it's AUV3, isn't it, that is this format, but up until before that came out, it was all a little bit kind of weird connecting things together. But now you can literally just pipe inputs and outputs from any plugins that support this to wherever you want,
And the big deal, why I waited so long, I've never had an iPad before. My wife has one, but I've never had one. And the thing was, the Lightning connector, and on these Pros, the iPad Pro now has a USB-C, so your possibilities of what you can do with this now have increased a lot. In fact, in the WWDC Apple Developers Convention, or whatever you call it, what was rumored to come out, they thought maybe the Pro apps would come to the iPad now that has this kind of connectivity. So, and I'm sure it is. Maybe they weren't ready yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Logic Pro come to the iPad soon. Again, I don't want to make music on the iPad. That's not really why I have it. But as a kind of an ancillary device to kind of bring things together, I would like to see... if you consider for a moment, this Essence FM has an amazing screen on it. I've played a Quantum, and the Quantum doesn't compare to the screen on this. And as a piece of hardware, it's amazing, but it's a digital synthesizer. And so if you think about, you've invested into a really powerful computer here, this one, with the M1 chip, far more powerful than what's in, an Essence FM. The things that you could do with this, if you have a controller, and a really nice controller with it, should be pretty amazing, in the future. And think about the way it's that kind of in between space where you're not using a trackpad or a mouse to move controls, and you're not turning knobs on a hardware synthesizer, but somewhere in that middle space is going to be a place where a lot of people are going to find themselves being very comfortable. And with this huge display, you're not having to buy a computer and a display on every synthesizer that you buy, if you've got a nice controller. So
Totally. And it's possible to make albums on iPads now as well. I share with you the idea, if I've got a screen, I quite like to get a big touch screen, or preferably a mouse to kind of drive the thing. But it's so I like this ability to plug and play these things like in that way. And I suppose Bitwig is approaching that from a DAW point of view to enable you to kind of modularize all your bits and pieces, which is quite an interesting way of taking things. It's one of those things you can really do nicely on an iPad at the moment, which you can't quite do properly on the Mac or the PC side of things. But I mean, that sound test room is a great resource, and Doug is amazing. He's been running it for years.
Yeah.
And showing the possibilities of the sounds and the stuff that you can do on an iPad is incredible. Funnily enough, this T-shirt is also Electronic Sounds, which is a guy called Doug at Electronic Sounds. Not Doug at what am I talking about? My mind has completely gone blank. It will come to me. Electronic Sounds is making preset manufacturer. Basically, they make a lot of presets, but a lot of it is geared towards iPad stuff as well, and Beatmaker on an iPad, which is one of the original DAWs and that kind of stuff. Dean, not Doug. Thank you, Rustic. Save my embarrassment. He is an amazing guy as well. So check out Electronic Sounds on YouTube. He does live streams every Sunday, all day, with loads of modular stuff. And he's one of the best, I would say, preset, kind of particularly drum sample makers that isn't as well known as some of the standard stuff. I mean, it's best kept secret, really. And it is Dean. Thank you, Rustic. And sorry, Dean. I'm sure you'll be watching this at some stage going, why did I send him that T-shirt? What an idiot.
Something that Mark in the chat, Angel Star Scotland, was talking about also is GeoShred. And so, I mean, if you think about, again, part of my point, and maybe this is what reminded him of it, is that there's a lot of hardware that's expensive that serves one purpose. And so with a piece of hardware like this having multiple purposes, this is a GeoShred app. I think most people have probably seen it, but it plays like Linstrument.
Oh, nice.
And so it has, as a guitarist, it has a very familiar feel because I can see the patterns in it. But then you can use this. That's the synthesizer, or just one setting on here, Shred Lead. I mean, they've got a lot of sounds in here, but the thing is that you can also use this to control other stuff on your computer or synthesizers, depending on how you set it up. So then it just kind of thinking about how can you get the most out of the things that you have. And so something like this, for a long time, the iPad was something that I couldn't really justify. But now that things have really opened up, like I'm finding a lot more uses out of it. Even if it's, just something like having it up next to the computer, using the sidecar function to, I'm on a laptop, so I've got 16 inches of screen real estate. Not a lot compared to a lot of you guys that are using big screens. So any of these little things kind of help increase the value of the things that have purchased.
Totally. What is that thing? That was way cool. What's that app that you just showed on the iPad?
Yeah. This is GeoShred. Yeah. And really it's an app that was developed by Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater. And so here, I'll bring it closer to the camera. You can check it out.
It's a cool name, though, isn't it?
It
sounds like a
Jordan.
Sounds like a PlayStation game.
Oh, you mean the
GeoShred?
I thought you meant Jordan Rudess.
Oh no. And then Jordan's an old friend.
You can configure this pad up quite a few different ways, and if I remembered quickly how to do it, I said I haven't used it very much. You can set it up to where any note that you hit is going to be in the scale that you want. This setup dramatically, so you can hit between, and then also being able to slide. So
that's cool. I like that.
And then that kind of MPE control where you can do stuff on different axes.
I mean, some of those MPE controllers are just so expensive. That's like a great way into doing that kind of stuff. Brilliant.
Yeah. Where I'm interested in the possibility of. I don't know if it is possible, but if you've got those the WIDI things that Robbie's always going on about, if you've got
the Wi-Fi MIDIs.
Yeah, if you've got them in the back of your gear, your hardware stuff, and you've got something like that Touch OS-C on the iPad, could you walk around your studio and program?
Yeah, you don't even need to do that because you can do network MIDI from the iPad and your Mac straight through, and it'll just appear at the other end. Yeah. As long as you're on the same Wi-Fi network, got a little Wi-Fi network going, you'll be fine. And if not, then I guess you can use the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's a much better way of doing it because it's integrated with everything. I'm doing that.
You get a big broom handle and some gaffer tape as well. You can have the square of the iPad and then just hold the broom.
I could just touch the synth with the broom. But yeah, I think that's brilliant. Like a dedicated controller for as many synths that'll work with it as possible. That's
a really neat thing. I love it. Absolutely love it. Kent Spong saying 23 quid. I kind of hope that's what the cost of the app is. Well, maybe he's just selling something on the chat. But either way, I'm advertising it for you.
Probably about that. But the GeoShred stuff goes on sale regularly, and you can get their big package really cheap for that, plus the other stuff they package with it, the synthesizers or whatever. And it was not a lot of money. It was between $10 and $20.
Cool.
Mark says it was £15 when he got it.
Isn't it GeoShred that's using acoustic modeling again? Is it that? Using that as its audio engine?
I don't remember. I
think it might be, and they're doing like great things, unless I've completely got the wrong company, but I remember something about that, going with that interface, and getting all the MPE stuff to work with the acoustic modeling, getting like real expression out of these, emulations of. I don't know.
Just that simple control, just by kind of doing that very slight slide is enough to be, a really useful piece of equipment. Cool. Well, that's brilliant.
Rustic says they do modeling. I beta tested it. Rustic, are you talking like component modeling or modeling as a form of synthesis? Acoustic modeling. Let's see if he will respond.
We should find out in a moment.
Yeah. Probably kind of
really cool thing. Really, it's almost like they should hive off the sound generation from the and just do a controller version. I'm sure the sound generation sounds great, but as a controller, it would be really good. Hello, Zaffers, who's just arrived in the Zaffer Music, who's arrived in the chat, and Keith in Watford, who came in late. Right. And a few other people, and Rustic is saying it's the synthesis. So there you go. And GeoShred with SWAM upgrade.
Yeah, that's something acoustic modelling on the end, isn't it?
Oh yes. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, I like that. Throws from Pulsar Modular on the iOS through to a brand new way of controlling synths in your DAW by wiggling your fingers on the screen of the iPad. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I've got a new editor.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right, so we got a few choices here. What's the coolest? Should we jump in and talk about the new Cherry Audio release? Ooh. Do you think that might be worth a call, or should we jump straight into the let's do the Cherry Audio. Yeah. Cherry Audio have a MemoryMode based release, so I just need to quickly find the video about that. Let's just have a look. It's in here somewhere. Apologies. I'm just going to click this link instead. Hang on. Talk amongst yourselves, or I'll just have to find some Reddit stuff.
Well, let's maybe hit another topic while you're pulling that up. So cool. We just heard that Rhodes is going to be returning as Rhodes Music Group, which is quite interesting. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. Who was the last owner of Rhodes? Didn't it end up with Roland at some point?
It did. Funnily enough, I can find this a little bit quicker than I can find the Cherry Audio stuff, because I went down a bit of a rabbit hole on this one. So let me just pop this up for a second. So Rhodes basically have announced there's a press release to say that Rhodes Music Group is now back with a vengeance and everything's going to be cool, and so this kind of led me off to work out what was going on. And I've worked out that from this brilliant New York Times article that Harry Rhodes, who died in 2001, a while ago now, aged 89, was an amazing man who designed the Rhodes, and he designed it to take around in World War II to wounded airmen in hospital, and he wanted to bring a piano in, so he built it using aluminium tubing from a B-17. So if you don't know what a B-17 is, it's one of these. Yeah. So he basically chopped up these aircraft and made a piano out of it, so that he could take it into hospitals and stuff like that, which was just incredible. Wow. And that was back in 1946. Yeah. And so after 1946, Fender bought his company in 1959. So 15 years after his first sort of wartime, I'm going to play my piano in hospitals, they bought it and made the Fender Rhodes. And they was talking about the Doors keyboard. Ray Manzarek was obviously with Riders on the Storm was one of the first users of the Rhodes. It really exploded. But the first product was actually a piano bass. So they kind of released the bottom 32 notes of the piano. So it's in here. And they
I
used
think
it as a piano
Ray
bass.
used that a bit as well, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So he started with that, and then he moved on to use the Fender. And then it says CBS bought Fender in '65, and they introduced the Fender Rhodes suitcase, which is kind of the classic sort of beautiful one that you hear phased all over the place. And they made 88 key models, which I didn't know as well. Sold it in 1993 to William Schultz, who then sold the Rhodes name to Roland. And then it all went a little bit wrong because...
That's a surprise.
Yeah. Mrs. Rhodes wasn't informed when the Rhodes name was sold to Roland, and Mrs. Rhodes said he wouldn't have one in the house. So that's really kind of sad when it gets to that level, doesn't it? And then another chap stepped in, Mr. Brandsetter, who basically resurrected it on behalf of Mr. Rhodes, bought it back and kind of backed Rhodes. And sort of into releasing new stuff. But now the Rhodes, well, certainly when this article came out in 2001, they'd fallen out. So the Rhodes family had fallen out with Mr. Brandsetter, who obviously I paid the money, but you still own it. So there you go, a very, very checkered history.
So, right? I'm either gonna like make myself look really stupid here or really idiotic. I'm not sure which. But
Rocking a hard place.
yeah. Who was the owner of Rhodes when they had dealings with ARP and made the Chroma?
Oh, well, when did the Rhodes Chroma come out?
That was a really strange tangent from what they were. I know it's a keyboard instrument, but it's nothing like the
79 to 80. So that sounds like just before Roland came out. 79, 80.
I'm sure somebody in the chat's going to know.
Yeah. Let me just pop this back up because I've got too many windows open here.
It was still CBS. Right.
Yeah. So 83 was when it went to Roland. So yeah, you're right, CBS.
So that'd be around the same time. Probably CBS was selling off companies because it would have been around 83, somewhere in the early 80s there that they sold Fender off as well. So the employees bought out the Fender company at that point.
Yes, exactly. So, well, I mean, in general, this is good news, right? I mean, it'd be nice to get the Rhodes back out, and it's such a lovely sound.
Redo the Chroma. That'd be
yeah,
be
true,
cool.
true.
I don't think they would though. Or the Polaris. That's something along them lines. That'd be cool.
I mean, there's very little for us to go on here. There's basically just what's effectively a press release that says it's back under new management, based in the UK, Rhodes Music Group, and our mission is to continue Harold Rhodes' development of the highest quality musical instruments.
Yeah, I think it's probably it's going to become like a boutique instrument firm, isn't it? Making high-end electric pianos. That's what you'd presume would be the best route for them to take at this point.
Yes.
I can't see them going into like mass production cheaper pianos. That's it's not going to work, is it? Well, it doesn't seem like it would to me. But they're high-end instruments, like where thingy is with that C15, that kind of.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something about the sound of a real Rhodes, just in the same as there's something about the sound of a real, vintage Policies. But I mean, I don't know. There are some lovely Rhodes remakes as plugins and stuff, but they're just so heavy. We're back to the CS80 days, right? Kent's saying our RP sold it to Fender for 57,000.
Wow.
Crikey.
Yeah, this will be interesting if they can get something out to market in a good amount of numbers, and I would hope not too expensive, but I kind of doubt that. Neil in the chat brought up the Vintage Vibe 73, which have you guys seen those? They look really cool.
No.
I So I haven't looked at a manufacturer page, but usually the ones that I see have like the sparkly finishes on them. And I think, if I recall correctly, and somebody might know, there's that great performance that Eric Pershing does with the other guy that does the synth.
Yeah, I know the one you mean. He was playing his CS80 with him as well. I can't remember.
Yeah. So he had the CS80, he had I think the Vintage Vibe, and then also the like Prophet 6 on top of that, something like that. But really beautiful. I would love to have one of those, but again, it's like space, and I just don't think I would be able to get my money out of it, not being like primarily a pianist. So Rhodes Vintage Vibe.
I remember back in the 80s doing gigs around Liverpool. There was this like all-day music festival on, and it was like, I might be completely wrong in saying this, but I presume that like a drummer or a guitar, a guitarist, maybe less so, can like just jump up and use somebody else's gear and it'd be like reasonably okay. But it's less likely with a synth player, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
You jump up there and you're screwed, really. We did this a spot in this all-day gig thing, and the keyboard rig was a Fender Rhodes and a DX7, and like I had like. Then I was so out of fashion because I had all analog gear, so these two things didn't sound anything like my gear at all. But what my point is that the Rhodes still kind of slotted in. It wasn't what it was before, but it still sounded all right.
It just sounds great. It's things like the Portishead track and the Portishead and Massive Attack. I mean, it can sound just really, really lovely and just cool. Do you know what I mean? Just so nice. And I mean, even Logic's electric piano stock thing sounds great. And then if you look at the Omnisphere, not the Omnisphere one, what's their Keyscape. Oh man, there's versions of it in there, especially with the phasers and stuff going. It just sounds absolutely brilliant. I mean, they could probably make a living just chasing after everyone else that's using their name, to be honest. But again, I guess it's all past.
I don't know if I told the story, but my first experience with Rhodes back in the mid-90s, I was taking, so my best friend and I decided we wanted to take a recording class. And so all computer based, I don't remember what it was, Performer, something like that. And they had Roland synthesizers, D something, I don't remember. And so we had to create songs on a computer, which we'd never done before. We were using tape machines. So this was like, we were really in the modern age, and we weren't synth players, and I didn't have any keyboards at the time. So was creating this stuff, and like, wow, we're really, really doing this. And so they had in the back of this classroom a handful of, I don't know if you guys have ever seen one of these, but they're kind of if I say 70s green, like you might kind of get the color of it, like refrigerator green.
Yeah,
Fender
I know what you
Rhodes, they were like a student model, and I remember it was very particular because like where the pedals were, it had this kind of crescent shape assembly, and then all that had on there, I think, was maybe a volume and a tone. I'm not sure if there was tremolo or not, but Neil says Jetson Rhodes, like definitely looked like it belonged on the Jetsons. Avocado green, yeah. And so, so we were really excited because I mean, in the day, nobody there wanted to have anything to do with them, and my buddy and I, like, we listened to 70s music, and so we're like, one day after class, we asked the instructor, like, hey, can we play those Rhodes? We want to check them out. We've never played one, and he's like, why the hell would you want to do that?
Why?
So, but he didn't care. So it's like, so we went and we put headphones. They had these like old, like huge can headphones with the curly cords.
Wow.
And went and stuck them on. We're like, we're going to be playing some Rhodes right now. And so we played it, and it was completely clean. No overdrive, no tremolo, none of the stuff that you would associate with the Rhodes. It was just the kind of the clunky, dry sound of it. And we were so disappointed. I mean, and you know, we didn't have the internet or anything, so like, I mean, we had later found out it's like, well, yeah, I mean, and being guitarists, we kind of probably figured that, you know, these are probably meant to be played through an amplifier.
Well, yeah, but and the same's true for a lot of synths, though, isn't it? I mean, you know, you imagine an unplugged-in guitar, what that sounds like, or at least a clean guitar.
Yeah.
People were so much more into just the sounds of the amps. I hesitate to say incinerate, but you know, just getting an amp out, getting some pedals out, and again back to what I was talking about with the plugins before, using the amp, the guitar amp and pedal VSTs to start processing not just synths but vocals and stuff, and get, you know, really hissy, bright, kind of interesting stuff going on. And there's not enough of that going around. You know, we're used to having our onboard effects in the synths that we buy because they sound terrible without them, but they still sound better than, you know, a Rhodes going through clean and all that kind of stuff. You know, people should be, I think, you know, using a lot more effects and speakers and stuff to get that sound out, because just saying, oh yeah, the Rhodes sounds terrible without anything, and it's such an iconic instrument and sound, isn't it? You know, it's what you do with it.
It shows how much the post-processing of it really makes a difference.
Totally.
I mean, nobody gives it a second thought when you're talking guitars, like, oh yeah, your speakers, your amp, your effects, all that stuff really shapes the way a Strat or Les Paul sounds. But yeah, when you think about things like keyboards or whatever, like, no, all those things are very important in the signal chain.
Yeah. I mean, with a guitar, generally, I'll show my lack of guitar knowledge, but in general, almost all of the sound comes after it's gone down the jack plug coming out of the guitar. Obviously, you've got your humbucker pickups and your different pickups that change the source sound a little, but not in the same way that your filter and resonance are going to change an oscillator sound coming out the back of the synths, right? You know, it's remarkable.
And I think, you know, with guitars, like as far as priority in the signal chain, I mean, guitars themselves end up usually being the most expensive component. But when you think about the importance in a signal chain, you know, I'd rather have a $4,000 amp and a $300 guitar than vice versa. Because if you have a, you know, custom guitar into a little crappy amp, it doesn't matter how custom that guitar is, it's just not going to sound good.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, that does make sense. I think
bet that
Jim
sounded great, that JC120 with
Rhodes just saying playing Rhodes with the JC120, and Jim Glue's saying disagreeing with that, because I'm guessing you're disagreeing that obviously the tone that comes out of the guitars is hugely important as well. It's just showing my ignorance about
but also too, I mean, the thing is, like, how it affects a player, that becomes important. That where the guitar itself becomes a more important part of the signal chain, because just like, you know, with thinking about key beds, how you respond to it, this might make the same sound no matter what key bed it has on it. It's just going to hit the oscillators and make the tone. But, you know, how it feels is going to affect you as a player, how well you get around.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Yeah. Epic. Okay, well, talking about that kind of stuff, the Roland update of their Fantom adds a tone wheel model and live integration. So we can have a quick look at that. Because that's kind of Rhodes-ish, I suppose. It's more Leslie-ish, I suppose, with the tone wheel option. I think they're trying to get a Leslie effects going on the Fantom.
Mark here from Roland, and I'm very excited to introduce the long-awaited virtual tone wheel engine, now made possible with the latest Fantom update version 2.5. Roland's virtual tone wheel engine, heralded from Roland's famous VK series, faithfully emulates the sound-generating process of a real tone wheel organ in every way. With 9 harmonic bars to provide classic hands-on tone control, either by the touchscreen or Fantom's physical sliders. This new virtual tone wheel engine gives the Fantom the same full sound and performance of a standalone combo tone wheel organ, not just a sample or a preset. With great response, the sound is really fat and organic, yet can cut through with extra percussion parameters and overdrive. quickly.
And there's Mark and his chops running up the
Pause
Roland
it there.
team.
Did you guys have a similar experience of yelling at the screen on this? Because I'm watching it now. To their credit,
Mark
they did.
from
No, they're going through this, and you're thinking about how a B3 is used and watching great players use a B3. I mean, it's a very hands-on experience. And in my mind, I'm watching this and like, okay, they've given it drawbar capability, but then they're going through every single way to move the drawbars. You can do it by this knob below the screen. You can do it on the screen. Like, there's sliders just to the left of it there. Why aren't you doing it with the sliders? Finally, they get to it.
And did you notice how unresponsive the screen was as well? He touched it. He went to where he made a brew, came back, and it moved. It was awful. Sorry,
we have one user in the chat saying it's he's impressed. So this is cool. This is Dave Bolden who's got one impressed. I mean, it sounds great. There was another comment saying Roland might need to look a bit more closely at their marketing team, which I think is probably the more of the issue here. But yeah, it sounds good to me.
I thought it was funny because that would be the first thing you'd think you'd want to advertise about it. Like, look, it's got these drawbars. Just the Nord's done it, and Hammond has done it in some way where you have those faders that be able to be purpose for that. So as you're playing, you can just grab them and move them around, change your tone. And it's like so far deep into the video that they finally get to it. I was just laughing by the time they got like, oh yeah, it does do it.
Yeah. I'm not really sure why those sliders are actually on the screen, those drawbars. When you've got those at the side, there's a physical control there. It just seems a bit bizarre, but it does sound good. I'm not a fan of the organ sound myself, as I think it was Andrew Brooks said in the chat. It's like, it's not my... It's
just got to be in the right place. I mean, as a player, as a piano player, it's really hard to play an organ because it doesn't have a hold pedal, and the hold pedal covers up a myriad of things and makes the whole thing merge together, whereas an organ only sounds when you've got your hands on the keys, which makes it really hard.
Yeah.
It's a different way of playing, but the sound is epic. It's the closest. I mean, I always really wanted to be a guitar player. I wanted to be out there, and a Hammond organ that gives me a similar feeling.
Yeah,
it's a more kind of rip your head off kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah. Which is great.
So especially if you got that. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, especially if you have that Leslie sitting there roaring next to you. I mean,
exactly.
The way that you can kind of feel the clicks, and then you can hit into it a little harder and have it really like
completely.
It's just got that mid-range like grind to it.
There's a couple of moments that on tunes where it's almost like a power chord guitar coming in, but it turns out to be a Hammond organ that fills that need, and it's almost like that's the one I just wanted to rush on stage and just go for that moment and rush off again, and that fulfilled my rock star need.
I like Talk the way that they've used organs in the past.
Happiness is Easy, that's one of them with that organ coming in, and the massive Talk tune, a big what's that one? Massive massive Talking Heads first major hit, and you may find yourself
Once in a Lifetime.
Once in a lifetime, and the end it goes and you think that's a guitar, but it's not. It's an organ. It's just epic. So when it kind of comes in, it just blows your head off. So I'm fully up for this tone wheel. If it makes sounds like that, I'm happy.
It's the same technology as the VK stuff, isn't it? So and that's that it sounds exactly the same as that from what I can gather. So it is a really good upgrade.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
And it's free as well, I think.
Yeah, like most of the organ stuff that I kind of was into was like late 60s, 70s type stuff. But do you guys remember there was a Charlatans UK track that started with organ, and it was like the nastiest, started with like a really, from my memory, I haven't heard it in a long time, but it was like a lot of key click, and it sounded like the thing was going to fall apart, but it was really cool sounding.
Probably was.
I think it was real, and it was going to. I mean, that was their kind of signature sound, wasn't it? There's something about a big wooden just Leslie going and the rocking the organ and all that kind of stuff.
John
It's
Lord
just
thing, yeah.
yeah, it's just proper, isn't it? Well, anyway, so it's a free upgrade, I think, to your Phantom, and it sounds amazing. Whether or not you want to use the interface is another thing, but certainly the sound is absolutely epic. And we should probably jump to Cherry Audio's announcement, which made it into the show. Which I think I might have just shown on screen and given it away a little bit. So Cherry Audio have been on fire recently, have now released their version of the MemoryMode, and it's called the MemoryMode. And I'm just going to find that for you, which is what I was looking for. So here we go, Cherry Audio's MemoryMode synth. Now, I don't know if they've got too much of a video going on here. Here we go.
I'm Mitchell Sigmund. I'm the main synthesizer designer at Cherry Audio. Essentially, it means that I draw pictures of synthesizers. That's what I tell my friends. And the other guys at the company magically make it do the things that I want a synthesizer to do, which is a pretty great position to be in. My history with synthesizers starts as early as I can remember. I remember looking at the back of records that my parents had. I remember seeing a really huge picture of this thing with a keyboard and a zillion connections. The light bulb went on. I was like, wow, whatever this is, I need one of these. It wasn't even a thought. Like, I knew this is what I was gonna do. I made my parents buy me this Casio keyboard. From there, I ended up playing synthesizer in bands and eventually ended up working with Cherry Audio. And I was kind of given the opportunity when we started with Voltage Modular to just design how synthesizers work.
My name is Dan Goldstein. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Cherry Audio and the lead developer of Voltage Modular and all of our virtual...
Okay. Rustic's on fire as well in the chat. We don't need life stories, do we? We kind of, especially on how we built the UE. Let's see if we can find something else.
That sound as good as the hardware that inspired me. And we couldn't be more proud of what we built. These vintage instruments had a magic to them that their digital counterparts lacked. And now we get to create these virtual versions of these legendary instruments.
We do indeed. Okay, there's a video that we have somewhere of comparison of these to the original as well, which I'll dig out in a second.
Sounds great, feels great, and it's very enjoyable.
It's the most alive instrument. Very minuscule little tweaks will make it sound vastly different.
It's really, really exciting what you could do with it.
So there's a bunch of presets. I think I've got one set up in Logic here. This one, which isn't coming out. I got it muted, that's why. I've got a feeling this is the demo version that will time out and mess around a bit. I'll just see if I can find the default kind of starter sound that it came with. Might be a bit loud. This is, it sounds good. I think the bottom line here is it's impressive, right, guys? I mean, I think this is a good thing.
I was pleasantly surprised with it because there's a few.
That's the demo just kicking into C noise every few minutes.
They've brought out a few synths that are a bit. I don't know how much they are. They're like 20 quid or something like that.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh well, it might be all right. I'll buy it for 20 quid, and they've only put this up by a tenner, which it's like 40 quid or something. It's like twice the price it is usually, but it's enough to make you take away that impulse purchase. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yes.
So I've got. I know it sounds dead stingy in that, but instead of just taking a punt on it and getting it, I'm thinking, I'm not too sure. So I think that might have damaged them in the sales a little bit by knocking the price up. But I did download the demo and I did think it was really good. I was expecting to be disappointed. I was the past couple have sounded a bit samey to me. by Cherry, and I think they're great. I think that lower end virtual synth market, they've nailed it. You're getting like really good stuff for not much money at all. But they were starting to sound a little bit like, oh well, this one to me sounds a bit like it sounds like the last one did, and I reckon I could get this sound on that if I tried hard enough. This one is it sounds much higher in the hierarchy of synths. You know, if you say that Roland Cloud is at the top or Arturia is at the top, this is an OBE's at the top. This isn't that far behind for me. The filter's great on it. I mapped some controllers from the Matrix Brute to it, and I was just playing away. I was nearly too late for the show because I got that into it. It felt like a real synth, and it was one that sounded great. You know,
I think that's the key. Actually, it's like it's not particularly like a MemoryMode. It sounds great though. I think if you do the comparison, I'm sure. And then we'll pull out the video and say I'm sure it's it doesn't compare. I could be doing them a disservice, but I think what we've got here is that Cherry's built an audio engine underneath all of this thing, and then he's loading in different models into the same engine, which is so they're putting in a new front end and then a new algorithms underneath it for the oscillators. But it sounds good. It does sound good. I don't think it's not on a par with the the GeForce.
It's not
at all, but it's very much cheaper, and it's a lot of fun, and it's got that when you hit a key, it's got that kind of oh gosh, that's actually quite interesting when it's not kind of making C noises as a demo. But I mean, there is the GeForce synth is right here. Ow! Doing a great disservice to it, and I don't know why that's happening. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. It shouldn't have had any of this. Oh, I'll tell you what, when I was demoing all of those plugins, the guitar tuner plug, the guitar amp plugin, I just stuck them all on this channel. Right?
Yeah.
But there is a depth involved with that synth, and it just sounds classy and deep and rich. The Cherry Audio isn't like that, but it's very definitely got a bang for its buck at that price, I think. And it's probably an unfair comparison at that price to expect anything more.
It is, but it's I don't know. It's above what they've done previously for me. The filter's really really good.
Yeah.
There's some really great sweet spots in the filter.
If I can just find a sort of big lead sound or something. So it's probably not doing it justice. You can kind of tell where's the filter cut off on the whole thing over here. And so I'm going to do it with one hand. Yeah, I mean it's not going to set anything alight at the top end of the market, but as a synth, and it's definitely one to have at that price in your market. And I agree with you that it's better. It feels better than the other more recent releases on the Cherry Audio front. So, but it's not a MemoryMode, and I'm not sure I would have expected it to be one.
Yeah. I think they still have some problems to work out. They've been getting better, and I think to me it started with the 8 voice is where things kind of took a turn and they started getting a lot better sounding. And now again, you compare it to OBE, and OBE is amazing, and but again. So with this, I think it's their best sounding synthesizer to date. There's something in the highs that you can see is like kind of feels unnatural. I don't know if they're trying to, they probably need to work on the filter a little more. And then there's something maybe up in the top frequencies, like they're dealing with aliasing, and it's just cutting out some of the sizzle of it. But that said, it's a great sounding synthesizer, especially considering the price. I'm rooting for them because they got a nice price point, and a lot of people that if you can't afford to get into like a major purchase like Roland Cloud or Arturia V Collection, this is something that a lot of people can access. So I like that. I really like that about them. This had some great basses in there. And, as far as the memory mode goes, if I may be controversial for a second, like when I think about the early 80s polysynths, the classics that came about, when we had the Prophet and the Jupiter 8 and the CS80, the Oberheims, like out of all the big, flagship polys, like the MemoryMode has always been my least favorite. Like I just don't think it sounds as good as the other ones. It has its sound, and it's got that weird like kind of solid state crunchy sound to it. Mm-hmm. So it is kind of funny seeing with plugins, because a lot of times I end up liking the plugins better than the actual memory mode. And again, that's just my opinion about it, and that's just my taste. And it's not saying that it's not a great synthesizer, because I've heard it used very well. But the one thing that they should have done though with this, they missed an opportunity. So they should have made 2 different GUIs for this. By the way, the GUI looks nice, doesn't it? Like for something that looks like hardware, it's not cartoonish. It's simple. It looks like the synthesizer. But they should have done at least 2 different GUIs for it with the logos there. So the American version should have been the MemoryMode, and then the UK one should have been the MemoryMood. M-O-O-D.
Yeah. You're right.
Very good. Very, very good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't knock this in the slightest. I think it's great value for money, and it looks great. And honestly, Cherry have I don't know how they're producing all this stuff so fast now. Whether they've just spent the last 2 years making all of these and they decided to release them all in sort of one.
I think it's like you said. I think they've got the framework and things just slot into it now. And
don't forget, with the modular system too, they've been working for a long time on this stuff. So it's not starting from scratch with every one of these. But as you said, there's a reason why they kind of are all a little bit samey sounding.
Yeah.
That said, like when this came up, I was like, "Whoa, totally not interested in this." Cherry Audio and MemoryMode, like not there. But I gotta say, it sounds good. Like I may end up picking it up. And so you guys, if you're looking to get a deal on this, JRR Shop, use the coupon code. I think it's Forum. And put in there. It comes out to like $32, like $32.76 or something like that. So can bring it down for you a little bit there if you're looking to get it. I may end up picking it up because I think it sounds good enough that it's worth having.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, definitely. The other thing is as well, it's really easy to map the controls as well. I was up and running. You just click that MIDI button, I think there.
Yeah, say MIDI
I'm
learn.
pointing to it as if you can see me.
I've got it selected.
No, I think there's if you look up at the top, there's the MIDI button with the indicator underneath it. If you click that, it comes up with.
Yeah, nice. So you can learn it. Yeah, nice.
And you can duplicate stuff and that there as well.
Yeah, it's a nice touch.
I found it was really easy to do, quite responsive, and it really made a difference to using it, because I'm not a fan of clicking the screen. That's what I love about the Matrix Brute. There's so many mappable controls on the surface of it. It's a brilliant controller. It works great with this, and the automation as well. It works. I think it might have been a Cherry Audio plugin in the past. I think I might have had problems with automation in Cubase, but this was superb. It just everything recorded. So
excellent.
For the money,
excellent.
I might have been tempted to keep it nearer the price of the others. Just because I'm a stinge bag, but I think
there's more knobs on this one, so it's cost per knob, right?
Yeah, the production costs must have been more because of the knobs.
They had to employ the UE designer had to draw some more waveforms.
Yeah, but yeah, it's well worth £40 easy.
Yeah, exactly, and a pleasant surprise when you hit the first key. Except if apologies for everyone if I took any of your heads off, and I've just showed you all the possibly good Waves plugins you could possibly add to a channel, all in one go, all turned up to the top, and then you hit go.
Well, I must have had my volume. I must have my volume down lower because it looks like you took all of Ben's hair off.
Yeah, and your own.
And my own, yeah.
I was thinking that before. It looks like The three of us together looks like a morphing from one condition to the other, doesn't it?
Hi, welcome to Pro Synth Network. I'm Cryss, and these are my co-hosts, Mr. Clean and Moby.
Yeah, quite.
Or Kojak. Was it Kojak?
It's not whack-a-mole. There's been plenty of Sonic State ones recently where it's like a game of whack-a-mole or a get-together with Right Said Fred. Anyway, IK Multimedia. Let's talk about something else, Richard. Let's talk more about guitar-based stuff that you can apply to keyboards. How about some of that? What do we think of IK Multimedia, Cryss? You're the guitar guru.
Yeah, I like their stuff, and the problem they have with the companies, they tend not to update problems like with their GUIs and things like that. It takes them forever. But for sound, they've done a really good job, and most of their stuff is really good sounding. I was very interested in these pedals when I first saw it come out, even though like my gear list for guitar pedals has gone way down because like I've got a great setup, and this is crazy for me to say, but like I'm pretty happy with it, which I would have never said before. Like I'm the serial, like I can get something that's 70.76% better than my last overdrive pedal. I'm gonna get it, you know.
Wow.
But since I've got into synthesizers, like I stopped doing the stuff I was doing with guitars, you know, for live playing and stuff. For the most part, that it's like I haven't needed that kind of stuff, but you know, I'm always looking for if there's some way to simplify the setup or make it, you know, get the stuff that you want on there in a smaller space. And so these are, you know, obviously are taking aim at some of the companies like Strymon, and I think even like, you know, UAD had Universal Audio had their new effects pedal line, and so to kind of come out, this seemed like a lot better deal. They've got great features. So there's 4 pedals here that we have. Like there's a dry pedal that's in red, a modulation pedal that's kind of a gold color, I guess. And then there's the delay pedal in green and the reverb pedal in blue. And
hang on a minute. Hang on. Did you say a dry pedal?
Drive. Overdrive. Distortion.
I thought they were trying to sell a pedal that did nothing then. Yeah.
Many years ago, I came up with the Boss Hisser. So when everyone was basically moving over towards digital away from analog, we came up with the idea if you put a Boss Hisser at the beginning of your pedals, it just introduces that analog hiss back into the channel. They didn't go for it though. But these look the business.
Yeah.
They do.
And they're very smart feature-wise too. I mean, they got all the MIDI connections on the back, USB. It's stereo ins and outs. It can be used with keyboard or guitar. The marketing right now is towards guitar.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I imagine as time goes on, they got hit in the forums pretty bad. Like, you know, so where are the keyboard demos? If you say this is keyboards, so what do you guys think about them?
I think they look ace, and I think, as you say, they're geared towards the guitars. I think they would sound awesome. That they are £300 each. Is that right?
Yeah, EMX Gold said in the chat that they're like competing with Strymon, but I don't know how much Strymon.
They're at that level. Let's have a look at the video. See what happens. That's a very long advert, isn't it? Oh, mind you, we're only halfway through. Doesn't tell me much about the kit, unfortunately, but yeah, they're right in that at that level, aren't they? So they sounds good if that was all recorded through it.
Yeah.
As a guitarist, Chris, does that advert appeal to your kind?
No, it's just as cringy to me as it is to you.
To your kind.
To my kind. This is the kind of abuse I suffer on a weekly basis.
Can we find anything that gives us a decent? What has this got? Because these are pre-order, right? No one's actually tried one yet, as far as I'm aware.
So one of the interesting things about the price-wise, because that was a discussion going on in the chat. So they're at €2.99 or dollars, which is still a better deal than Strymon, because that's the price of their like smaller pedals like the Flint, and their bigger ones like the Mobius and Timeline are a bit more expensive. I don't know what they're up to right now, but the thing is, like, if you get more than one of these, like, they have package deals on these, so you can get all 4 of them for $9.99.
Right.
And then, hey, we need to kick somebody out here.
What's that?
Oh, yeah. Can we get rid of this person?
Oh gosh. So hang on 1 second. Sorry about that. Done. Should be done.
Okay. I think I've got it deleted. Yeah. Okay. So he's hidden from the channel now. Okay. We don't need that.
Wow.
Apologies for that, guys.
Okay. Yeah. So, anyways,
yeah.
So you can get them for a lot less money, and then if you're in the IK Multimedia ecosystem, they have their jam points. I think it's the jam points. Yeah. They, like, if you buy stuff, they give you these points, and you can use them up for up to 30%. So
right.
It would be a good deal if you're looking for them. One of my problems, though, is like I don't need the other ones. I've got Strymon stuff, but I was thinking I sold my Mobius, and I was thinking, like, well, maybe if this. Oh crap!
Right, go on.
All right, hold on, let me take care of this. I don't want to. Okay, good. So I was looking at the Mod X or Vibe X, I think is what this one's called. And I'm thinking, great, they've got some good algorithms, and I'm looking for a CE1 sound because I've had a couple of the original units, the big old honkin' chorus pedals, and but it's not included on here. And the choruses that they give in their adverts were like the Roland RS series chorus, which guitarists love to use. I'm like, what guitarist has ever used one of those? I've lost track, but I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of about 800 pedals over my lifetime, and I've never seen any other guitarist even talk about a Roland RS chorus. Now, Roland and Boss make the greatest chorus, in my opinion. I love the old CE1 and the Dimension C and D and all those, but it's kind of funny. Like, they put a Solina chorus in there, an RS chorus from Synth, and then, they're like marketing towards guitarists. So I'm like, well, this is a bit of a head scratcher. Right.
Absolutely. So I was just dealing with some more moderation stuff. No, that makes no sense. I don't know, these things. There's a DSP based version of these as well, right? So this is the bit I was trying to get my head around. So as well as getting these plugins, you can get plugin versions of the pedals, right? So you can.
Well, they're using some of the algorithms, I think, are in other things. So like they just updated. What program was it? Sample Tank or something, or Mixbox with a shimmer reverb. So I'm assuming that these are being developed for multiple products.
Right.
But it would have been really nice because they do have a computer editor on there, and it would have been really nice to have be able to take the algorithms and jump them into the pedal. Like you have Amplitube 5 or something, and you're like, oh, I want that one chorus and that one phaser and that flanger. I'm going to dump them into the pedal. That would have been really great.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. So we're kind of, our call on this is basically we're a bit stuffed without having to hear them, being able to hear them ourselves, right?
Yeah. Sorry. Let's see.
We just need to.
I'm just trying to work out how to permanently get rid of this.
So
person.
we've hidden these disruptors in the chat, but I don't know why the messages are still coming up.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
So
they all
apologies to
Sorry about
anybody.
this, guys. We got
Yeah.
they are banned, but I don't have admin on the YouTube side, so that's probably why. If you're
I said we blocked them right away. But I think these are multiple accounts because. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get a handle on this.
Can you add me as a mod on the YouTube one? I think you have to go to the YouTube channel itself rather than from within this system.
I'm not.
And just add.
I'm not
adding,
logged in as pro.
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. We can. Do you know where that's done?
You've got an admin, but if you just select
community here. Let's see here.
I think that's
why.
Yeah,
we've blocked multiple accounts on that Gwen. And let's actually set up. Just a second.
I've never really liked No Doubt, but I hate them now. It's like,
okay, I've blocked some words, so hopefully that will take care of some of that.
I think, unfortunately,
and let me see if I can get you added on.
Probably doesn't know any more words than that, so yeah.
I think Paul Artola's been blocked when he shouldn't be.
Yeah. So what was we on about? Was we on about them pedals, weren't we?
What was that, Paul? Oh, I'll take care of that. Let me unhide. Okay, so Paul, sorry about that. We must just as the stream was moving up. You should be able to post again, and
yeah, well, yeah, those pedals are not particularly for me, but I think they look great, and I go with Chris's judgment on the sound of them because I'm not really sure, but it's nice to see them turning out more hardware. They've got a nice line of products now going through the range, and it'd be interesting to see them do more.
Yeah, totally. And there is this link with the kind of software versions, I think, that can fit with VST based stuff. But we're still suffering, I'm afraid, from this guy. Let me show you. It's weird. It's still. Are you in YouTube at the moment? Here is an upside down cat to make everything seem better.
Oh.
You want to do it again?
Good boy.
Here we go.
Nice.
That's a fun game. More.
Come here. Get your upside down hug.
Yeah.
One more time. Here we go.
Oh, no more?
No more.
Oh.
Well, there you go. How's the blocking going? Not working, right? There's just loads and loads of YouTube accounts. Just
I'm trying to add moderator, but it's not allowing me on here.
Well, we just about hit the 2 hours stuff, but we can we can carry on, or we can just it'd be a shame really to stop off now. But if we're being inundated by idiots, it's it's a bot-based thing, right?
We'll look into that. Maybe we've had a few offers of moderation from people in the chat, like regulars, and I think it's a good idea if we've got.
Yeah, well, Inky moderates my one on the Sunday, and it's absolutely brilliant. You very, very rarely get stuff going on, but it's definitely worth it, particularly if you're building up kind of a following.
Yeah,
but this is a bot that's just throwing in new accounts constantly, which is it's kind of weird because you wouldn't be a major target for.
Yeah, I don't know why this would be
you know
happening,
what I mean?
but
Who have you offended, Ben?
Everyone.
Recently.
Well, if he wasn't going to say it.
I mean, just recently. Narrow it down the last couple of weeks.
I think it might be Robbie myself. Because you were doing quite well. You were doing quite well, and then this has completely thrown it, and I think he's sat in his record queue on his fold out
firing off his
seat.
Firing off his botnet.
Yeah. He'd be taking it by hand, I reckon.
Well, I'm getting quick on the banhammer here as well. Let's just take a look at this.
Let me put it straight though. For those of you in the chat that can actually see it, Robbie would never say anything like that.
Of course not. Of course not.
Really decent bloke. I meant like for the people watching who've got no idea.
What this is all about.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what happens. We are running a little bit late, but there was a late news feed that hit us about the Polivoks, which I think is definitely worthwhile mentioning. And let's see how it goes. This is the news that Behringer have been approached by the original guy behind the Polivoks, which is a fabulous Russian synth. If I flip this on, you'll be able to see him. This chap. Vladimir Kuzmin and Behringer announced today that they've entered into a collaboration to develop a new Polivoks synthesizer. Let's just kill that. Which is, I think, a first, right? So Vladimir Kuzmin said, with great interest, I followed Behringer's vision to bring back iconic synthesizers and make them affordable for musicians. For all my life, I've been extremely passionate about synths, and I decided to contact Uli to see if Behringer would be interested to design a new Polivoks. So, I mean, that's pretty flipping amazing. So Behringer are now, in conjunction with Vladimir Kuzmin, making a new Polivoks. Which is really exciting. We've got no time scale, nothing. But there is a really cool video of the Polivoks by what's the guy? Let me just dig out that video. Hold on 1 second. I was probably back to all three. And talk amongst yourselves just briefly, and I will find the video that I'm thinking of, which is this one, Heinbach's video. So have a quick look at this.
Привет, я Heinbach. Good to have you back. What I just played is one of the synthesizers I've been dreaming about for the longest time, the Formanta Polivoks.
So this thing sounds amazing, and there's a bit in here where he goes to the filter.
It's really hard to get a clean sound out of it. It wants to scream and excels at dark basses and leads.
I think around here somewhere there's some filtering. Here we go. So it's quite an impressive thing. It's a subtractive synthesizer from what I can make out, but it's kind of just like a screamer rather than a nice warm sounding Moogie type effect. It's a rip your head off kind of synth. So I'm quite excited by this.
It's harsh, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's got like some real grit to it, and
Yeah.
I like the fact that they're working with, you know, the original designer. It feels a lot more respectable and above board, and I think people can get in on that, can't they? You know, but it's definitely an interesting.
It'd be interesting to know from Kent Spong, the incredible genius, synth repair come amazing person, what he thinks about the Polivoks, whether he's ever worked on one before, because there's definitely something certainly on that demo which is just like crazy sounding. Yeah, a real cutting sounded synth. So if he can get a word in, it'd be lovely to know. He said he sold one for 20 quid because no one wanted it.
Wow. Yeah.
One step up from leaving it in his backyard, I guess.
It sounds to me. This is some weird. I'm sure it's some weird association I've got somewhere, but it sounds like the perfect synth if you're doing a soundtrack to a Chernobyl movie. That is the synth that you would use to do it. It's got that feel about it, the whole thing.
Yeah, totally. No, it looks it just looks and sounds like, I don't know, because it looks like a tank, and it's very kind of Russian kind of looking type thing. I suppose that's probably affecting my judgment a little bit, but I definitely want to hear what comes out.
The layout of what it has is not like way off from a MemoryMode, but it's gain staged pretty high, so it does get pretty crazy and sounding like a lot of drive to it. I've got a Erica Synth Polivoks filter that is amazing, and I love it. In fact, I like to use it with my Matriarch. I run the Matriarch's oscillators into that, or with whatever I have with my Eurorack stuff. It sounds really good. So I'm really excited about this. I like to see what comes of it.
It's definitely
by the way,
filter, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry.
Just as far as the chat, Sasquatch asking if we can get some other people add on. It's not letting me on the YouTube channel page right now. We'll get that worked out later. So we'll be in charge. We'll be in touch with people to figure out what we can do as far as
I think what's going on here is we've got a system that streams out to Twitch and YouTube and to Facebook at the same time, and so I think moderation controls within that don't feed out to all the individual channels. So in the past, when I've done it, we have a moderator on YouTube that sorts the YouTube moderation out.
Yeah,
so I think
that's what I was just trying to get set up is for the YouTube one, but so we'll get that sorted out later. We're about to wrap it up anyway, so
apologies for the intrusions.
Yeah, sorry about Ben. He's obviously offended far too many people again this week. It's just one of those things. Yeah, so sorry for the people in the chat who've been inundated with some spam for the last 5 minutes or so. Obviously, we'll bear with us, and next time. Well, to be honest, I think next week I'm on again, and we have a guest that time, so it's going to be sorted by then. Thank you for the people in the chat who've offered to be moderators. That would be awesome, and we'll take you up on that offer. That would be really, really epic. So thank you for that. Yeah, and it's really kind of cool. You just have to hit the mod spanner next to anybody that's doing that. Quite why we've reached the lofty heights of wanting to spam us is just bizarre.
And
absolutely bizarre.
In the course of anybody else got accidentally, so while the text is scrolling up and we're trying to hit those little dots that are right on the slider, there were a couple people like Sasquatch that actually accidentally got banned there for a moment.
Poor Sasquatch.
Yeah. If there's anybody else that accidentally got taken off, please let us know. I'll actually go through the YouTube channel thing to make sure that that's cleaned up, because it should show up in there. And we'll make sure everybody is back on.
Accidentally.
But what if oh, oops! I don't think that was supposed to be one. Jim and Mark, you're back.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So if there's anybody else, some of these names I don't recognize, but boy, we did pretty good. We got Deepak Chopra and Gwen Stefani visiting.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't like us, but at least we're checking it out.
If to give it time, but I didn't like the political views, so
no.
Well, just
probably better off without them.
You either spam to get a channel banned or to make money. Neither of which is really going to happen with that. So yeah, Wilderness is just saying ban everyone. Next time we'll just chat to ourselves. Welcome back, Jim. I think that you got banned by accident, but it's worked. So there's a first ever. At least the numbers will be up, I suppose.
In a few years, what was the secret of your success? Well, we were just banning people all the time. It made us very elite. Exactly. Maybe that's what we should change the name of it to Synth Elite.
That's a terrible name. No.
He's off again. Thanks ever so much. We've overrun by far, but a lot of that was because we were just kicking people out, which was obviously a lot of fun. Thank you so much for staying with us. And if you haven't, it'd be really appreciative if you could give it a thumbs up just underneath the video. I know the chat sometimes obscures the thumbs up, but a like would be awesome. And a follow if you haven't followed already. We really appreciate it. Thanks for putting up with the lack of Rob, or a Regimental Sergeant Zippo, as we like to call him over here. So thank you for that. Which is the name of the Elton John album he bought last time. Apparently there's a missing first first album from Elton John called Regimental Sergeant Zippo that he bought on the day one of the record store day. So he's forever to be known by that name.
Yes.
Do you want to do a bit of housekeeping,
Yes.
Chris, about what's coming up, please?
So coming up next week, we will have a second week with Dominic Hawken guest hosting. If you've seen that guy, you're going to want to come back, right?
Yes.
I've got a guitar for the next one.
All right, yeah.
Oh, let's take a look there. And also, we're going to have special guest Jim Danaker on for next week, so please tune in that. Hey, also, just real quickly, last week's show, if you didn't happen to see it with Simon Glenister, please do check that out. He is helping kids out with music, and it's not just music. He's helping their lives and their emotional states, and really is something that was worth checking out because it was so clever what he's doing and the lives that are being changed. So I recommend, if there's one episode that you go back and watch, really want to recommend that one. So next week, Dominic Hawken and Jim Danaker. On July 30th, Robbie will be back, and we will be having Mark Doty on. On August 6th, David Bessel. And August 13th, Mark Reeder. And starting on August 20, we'll be having our reoccurring special guest, which is none other than the legendary Kit Spong. And we're always looking forward to talking to him and the craziest that will ensue with him. Now, we were supposed to be kept in check, and he didn't do a very good job, Dominic.
Yeah.
In fact, you joined in with us a rather probably too much. So I'm sorry if. But here's the thing: is Robbie's 1/3 of it, and if he yells at you, he yells at you. You've got the support of the other 2/3 of Pro Synth Network. So
This is good.
Of course he won't. But and then at the end of September 24th, Axel Hartman, which is a synth designer. Of course, he did this design here. So. Great stuff coming up. Again, thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe and all that great stuff. If you want to hang out with us during the week, the Facebook group, Pro Synth Network, is where to do it. And there's so many cool people in there, and we're having so many great conversations about gear, and it is really amazing. It's an amazing group. So anything else, guys?
No, if you've got a few pennies spare, you can donate to the network if you go to Cutley-PSN-donate. That's really appreciated.
And Sunday, who are you having on your show?
I've got a good show on Sunday with John Alchemy. Come watch Mr. Wiggly. If you look up Mr. Wiggly on YouTube, or mrwiggly.co.uk. There's a link there. Just do a Sunday afternoon, kind of chilled. It's not really about news or anything. It's about a bit of music, but undiscovered people mainly, rather than sort of famousy kind of people. And we do a really silly quiz with my 9-year-old daughter, like kind of what color are my socks type questions. And we chat about making music and synths that people like and they dislike, and the chat throws in a load of questions. It's only on for an hour, 7 p.m. on Sunday with John Alchemy, who's a really, really good live jamming synth player. Came out of the live jam stuff, and I really want to know a bit more on that. He's based in Greece. We're going to be doing a little bit of Greek snack tasting with some olives and probably some cheese as well, just to keep that one going. Last week was with Inky the Cat, and if you missed that, if you know Inky, she's just amazingly supportive of shows like this, and it was a real insight into Inky, really, and that's obviously still available.
Did you mean Her Majesty?
Her Majesty, yeah, she is Queen of Wales. If she'd been born a boy, she would be King of South Wales, like legit, really. Her dad is the King of South Wales, which apparently means that he can go to Wales and they have to bow to him if he wants, which is just incredible, amongst many, many other talents that she has to offer as well. So that one is available to watch on demand. Sundays will be with John Alchemy, and every Sunday it's either me just talking rubbish or someone will come and chat to me, I'm sure. But it's very very chat influenced as well. So come and have a relaxing, hopefully slightly comedic Sunday evening and join me, which would be good fun. So thanks for allowing me to run that trailer. Thank you.
Oh, no worries.
All right.
Right. So
other than that, I think we're good to go. So thanks very much in the chat, and we will see you all same time, same place next Friday with a brand new team of moderators, I hope, which is actually really quite exciting. So look forward to it and see you again. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.